Under the bright lights of Dodger Stadium, the crowd was buzzing, but something felt different that night. There was a special kind of electricity in the air, the kind that only Shohei Ohtani can generate. It had been a while since fans had seen that familiar fire in his eyes, the uncontainable emotion that once made him the heartbeat of every game he touched. But tonight, as he stepped up to the plate, that spark seemed to return. The anticipation built with each pitch. The pitcher worked carefully, knowing that one mistake could change everything. Ohtani's stance was calm yet focused, his bat glinting under the lights as if it had a pulse of its own. Fans held their breath, the world seemed to freeze for that brief second before the swing. Then it happened. Crack! The ball exploded off his bat, soaring down the right center gap. It was a rocket, the kind of sound that makes even the opposing dugout pause in awe. The crowd erupted, and Ohtani sprinted down the line, his face a mix of determination and raw emotion. As he slid safely into second base, a wide grin broke across his face. It wasn't just a smile, it was a release. It was as if months of quiet frustration, endless recovery, and self-discipline had burst open in that single moment. Cameras zoomed in, capturing that rare expression, pure, unfiltered joy. Fans watching from the stands and at home could feel it. That smile wasn't ordinary, it was the Ohtani smile they'd missed. The one that reminded everyone why they fell in love with baseball in the first place. Twitter exploded instantly. "He's back," one fan wrote. Another simply said, "That smile, I'm crying." It wasn't just a double. It was a symbol of resilience, of patience paying off, of an athlete rediscovering the part of himself that thrives under the biggest spotlight. For months, Ohtani had stayed composed, quiet, businesslike, the kind of player who lets his bat do the talking. But tonight, he let his heart speak too. The Dodgers dugout rose to its feet, clapping and shouting his name. Teammates grinned, knowing how much this meant. They'd seen him working behind the scenes, day after day, long after the cameras stopped rolling. They'd watched him hit ball after ball in practice, chasing perfection. And now, in this single swing, everything came together. The comeback wasn't just physical, it was emotional. Ohtani's return to form reminded everyone that greatness isn't measured by stats alone, it's measured by the ability to rise again, no matter how heavy the expectations become. Reporters later noted how he seemed lighter, freer, like the weight of an entire season had been lifted off his shoulders. "It's been a while since I've felt that," Ohtani admitted quietly in the post-game interview. His voice carried gratitude, not just for the hit, but for the journey. Because for him, every small success carries a story. Every swing is backed by hours of solitude, early mornings, and the grind that no one sees. To most fans, this was just a beautiful RBI double. But for Ohtani, it was proof that persistence always finds its reward. The stadium replayed the moment on the big screen, and as the crowd cheered again, Ohtani's face lit up even brighter. It wasn't about showmanship, it was about connection. In that instant, player and fans shared the same emotion, relief, joy, and hope. Social media filled with clips of that smile. It became the night's defining image. Some fans wrote that they hadn't seen him this happy since his MVP season. Others said they could feel tears welling up just watching him laugh again. It was as if baseball itself had taken a deep breath and remembered what it was meant to feel like. Across the diamond, even the opposing players couldn't help but acknowledge it. They'd faced him enough times to know how dangerous he could be, but tonight, there was something deeper in their admiration, respect for a man who never stopped striving to be better. The broadcasters replayed the swing in slow motion. Every frame told a story. The focus in his eyes, the perfect balance of his stance, the follow-through that seemed to carve through the night air. The commentators could hardly contain their excitement. "That," one said, "is vintage Ohtani." And vintage it was. That familiar combination of grace and power, the effortless fluidity that makes his baseball artistry feel otherworldly. The kind of moment that reminds fans that they're witnessing something historic every time he steps onto the field. Back in Japan, it was early morning, but millions of fans were awake, watching live. Messages poured across social platforms in Japanese and English alike, celebrating their hero. "Okari, Shohei," they wrote, "welcome back." For Ohtani, these are the moments that define his connection to both sides of the Pacific. He carries not just the Dodgers' hopes, but the dreams of two nations that see him as more than an athlete, as a symbol of unity, perseverance, and quiet strength. After the inning ended, cameras caught him in the dugout, exchanging laughs with teammates. It wasn't a staged smile, it was genuine, unguarded. Even his teammates seemed moved by how happy he looked. "That's the Ohtani we all love," one of them reportedly said later. Fans who had waited patiently for this side of him to return finally felt rewarded. The man who always seemed calm and composed had finally let his emotions spill out, not through frustration, but through joy. The baseball world had missed this version of him. The version who played like a kid again, who smiled as if the game itself was his best friend. And for fans, that's what makes Shohei Ohtani so special. He makes the impossible look effortless and the ordinary feel magical. That double might not show up as a historic record in the stat books, but emotionally, it was one of the biggest hits of his season. It reignited something in him, and in everyone watching. When asked later about his reaction, Ohtani smiled and said softly, "It just felt good. It's been a while since I could really enjoy the moment." That sentence alone struck millions of hearts. Because everyone could relate, the joy of rediscovering yourself after a long struggle is universal. For weeks, Ohtani had been battling not just pitchers, but the invisible pressure that comes with being the face of modern baseball. Every swing, every interview, every step was analyzed. But tonight, he simply played, and that made all the difference. Analysts would later say it wasn't just the hit that mattered, but the way he carried himself afterward. Confidence seemed to flow through him again, as if he had rediscovered his rhythm. In the stands, one young fan held up a handmade sign that said, "Smile, Shohei, we missed you." Cameras caught it, and even Ohtani noticed. He nodded and waved, a small gesture, but one that showed how deeply he values his supporters. Moments like these remind us why Shohei Ohtani isn't just an athlete, he's a story in motion. Every game adds another chapter, filled with triumph, challenge, and emotion. Baseball has always been called a game of inches, but for Ohtani, it's a game of heart. And that night, his heart was wide open for the world to see. As the game went on, that energy spread through the team. The Dodgers played looser, more confident, feeding off his passion. It was as if one man's smile had reignited the entire dugout. Even after the game ended, fans stayed in their seats longer than usual, replaying the moment on their phones, cheering, crying, smiling. Ohtani had given them something beyond the scoreboard. He'd reminded them why they love the game. Journalists wrote headlines the next morning filled with emotion. Ohtani's smile returns, the spark is back, baseball feels alive again. And perhaps that's what made it so powerful. It wasn't about numbers or records, it was about humanity. It was about a player rediscovering joy in doing what he loves most. In a sport often obsessed with analytics and data, Shohei Ohtani gave everyone a glimpse of something that can't be measured: heart. As fans left the stadium, one phrase echoed through the night: "He's back." And indeed, he was. Not just the athlete, not just the MVP, but the smiling, passionate, unstoppable Shohei Ohtani the world had fallen in love with. That night wasn't just another game. It was a rebirth. And from that moment on, every time Ohtani steps to the plate, fans will remember the smile that said it all.